Hello, fellow targeted individuals. We do not have a democracy, we have a plutocracy. 99% of politicians, which are funded by AIPAC, are put into office. So people aren't elected, they're essentially selected. So that's why you may want to look at countries like Nicaragua and Venezuela to get away from all this surveillance. Because we are technically under a state of mass surveillance. Our information is shared through national security partners to the same groups which have been targeting Americans. Based on freedom of thought, freedom of association, information is being shared with fusion centers, ADL, SPLC, far left groups, and in the past, diversity and inclusion groups were targeting people, along with sheriff's associations, hordes of Israelis. I have videos here in Florida, in Groveland, Florida, Leesburg, Florida, Winter Garden, Florida, Orlando, Florida, and so on. And it shows active duty army. It shows people which are 8A business vendors. Don't trust a damn person here, fellow TIs.
The blame for the fires of West Maui is falling upon Hawaiian Electric, who knew as early as 4 years ago that there was a risk of fire due to their own negligence in maintaining power lines. But they did nothing. Hawaiian Electric, who is owned by Vanguard and BlackRock, has been shifting their focus to clean energy. And in order to build back better, the old system must first be destroyed. And so the power was left on to feed the flames. The warning system on Maui is one of the most advanced and maintained warning systems on Earth. Residents are accustomed to monthly tests, but on the day of the fire, no sirens went off.
Is it a coincidence that the Maui police chief is the same man who was in charge in Las Vegas during that massacre that killed 58 people? Is it a coincidence that the Maui property, owned by million and billionaires, it wasn't touched by the flames while homes of the locals all burned?
What she fails to also mention is how the media hasn't even once interviewed a grieving parent. Not a single parent looking for their children. Not a single interview with a child. Not a single interview with the schools.
Was it a coincidence that the largest system of outdoor emergency sirens in the world never made a sound as the fire devoured Lahaina? Was it a coincidence that at the same time, very same time, all the water was turned off? Was it a coincidence that police were ordered to block off streets and to funnel all the cars trying to escape? Think about this coincidence. That governor also signed an emergency proclamation on July 17th, 3 weeks before the fire, about housing of all things. Is it a coincidence that the government put up a black fence around Lahaina, or that the FAA grounded all drones from flying over the affected areas? Is it a coincidence that since at least 2011 there have been plans to make Maui the first smart city run by 100% renewable energy? And that it must be a coincidence then that the locals whose homes did not burn are now being evicted from their property. And of course, a total coincidence that all the fact checkers who are checking these facts, who say everything I just told you is just a coincidence, are also owned and run by BlackRock.
The theory is that there was a lot of items, a lot of cars, a lot of homes with blue roofs, and of course the blue umbrellas that seemed untouched. Not even just untouched, they seemed perfectly fine. At least the umbrellas were, and the homes with blue roofs were. And of course we saw blue containers that somehow were just sitting in the streets. And there's the theory as well of blue shirts, a pile of blue shirts that somehow survived that were sitting out there. So there's all these theories about how the direct energy weapon can target specific colors. And of course, if the laser beam itself, the lens is blue, then it will not hit things that are blue. Kind of like this video clip that I shared in that video. Take a look.
Laser weapons can be programmed for different wavelengths.
BlackRock is a big business that uses its money for political influence, and they have a lot of money. $11.5 trillion, trillion with a T. That's more money than France, Germany, and England's entire GDP for the year combined. Through the stock market, do they buy in the biggest, most powerful businesses in the world and force them to think and behave according to their political philosophies?
Well, behaviors are going to have to change, and this is one thing we're asking companies. You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock, we are forcing behaviors.
They use the economy and big businesses for political leverage and for the benefit of Israel. For example, McDonald's and Starbucks. BlackRock owns enough shares into them to influence them to pursuing policies that are not popular and led to many boycotts. And then although it's very, very bad for the business, BlackRock doesn't care because BlackRock also owns their competition. So they have no problem forcing businesses into unpopular politics because they make profit either way. They push their political agendas and make money. Businesses don't want to do these things. BlackRock also makes a lot of profit on war. They have large stakes in Boeing, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman. And anytime there's war, it's going to help Israel and they're going to make a lot of money on it. BlackRock also uses their money for lobbying politicians to their politics too, such as in America, England, and Ukraine. So they have an incredible amount of influence.
And Israel have announced, well, they want to introduce a humanitarian city. Now, a former Israeli Prime Minister has called this a concentration camp, and their aim is to force 2 million Palestinians into a small area in southern Gaza. How do you feel about that?
I do know what the next step will be. First, you put all of them together, and then you finish the job. So this is an utterly hypocritical idea. It should be resented, it should be fought against, because that is really almost the last step for, dare I say, something like a final solution.
What I witnessed in Gaza, I can only describe as a dystopian, post-apocalyptic wasteland. We, the United States, are complicit. We are involved, hand in hand, in the atrocities and the genocide that is currently undergoing in Gaza. We aren't there on the distribution sites defending ourselves against Hamas. We are using indiscriminate force, targeting civilians, escalation of force that goes far beyond the measures of appropriate against an unarmed, starving population. The equipment that we were issued, fully automatic weapons, which in and of itself is not a violation of protocol. However, we were issued M855 green-tipped ammunition. That's important because green-tipped ammunition is a steel-jacketed copper round that's specifically designed to penetrate armor. It's designed to kill. The fact is, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is not trained, equipped, manned, or staffed to run humanitarian aid and humanitarian assistance of this magnitude. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation needs to be defunded, shut down, and the United Nations needs to be allowed back in full scale.
If you're an American citizen with a phone, Israel has all of your data thanks to Trump's new bill. Trump is using Palantir, an Israeli AI database, to collect information on U.S. citizens on their cell phone. And the man in charge of Palantir, an Israeli citizen who is best friends with Israel's president. Here they two are right here. Now Palantir, who has ties with the Israeli government, now has full control over your phone. They're giving us information over to the U.S. government and probably Israel. And if you're wondering, yes, this is in effect. Make sure to follow me to know the truth and comment what you're gonna do.
Israel's actually one of the most dangerous countries to do intel with because they steal info all the time. They get caught stealing from us all the time. So this guy named Jonathan Ballard, probably one of the biggest data breaches ever, collects information, gives it to the Russians on behalf of the Jewish people, right? He gets arrested, convicted, etc. Goes to federal prison. He gets a pardon by Donald Trump in 2019-2020. He gets flown from the United States over to Israel on a private jet owned by Sheldon Adelson, and he's met at the tarmac by who? Benjamin Netanyahu. Wow. So he's greeted like a hero in Israel after committing espionage against the United States. And he's in Israel now, chilling. He got a pardon.
It turns out Joe Biden had stage 4 cancer during his presidency and very low cognitive awareness the entire time. which should have been a scandal while he was president, not afterwards. But these were the people that were the heads of all of his White House cabinet positions. These were the people that were running the country for the past 4 years. Notice how they all have the same religion and the same allegiance to that one single foreign country? They don't even have Democrat values or left-wing policies. They were just hijacking the Democrat White House. They ignored the economy, they ignored the voters, they ignored the whole Democrat Party, and just focused all their policies and everything solely on helping Israel, even at the expense of the Democrat Party and even the whole entire country. Janet Yellen, she was in charge of our economy. Anthony Blinken, Secretary of State, and all foreign affairs. Garland, head of the Department of Justice and FBI. A foreign country completely ran the executive branch and the White House for 4 years. This country was hijacked. All right, Trump, good news, bad news. Starting with the good news, Trump fired a bunch of pro-Israel officials from his administration, even going so far as to taking out top officials from the National Security Council. That significantly weakens blue state influence. But now on the bad Trump news. Our government has hired Palantir. They'll be doing surveillance and data collection on American citizens. A big giant spy machine. They're going to seek out threats and work to neutralize those threats. And guess who decides who is considered a threat? The radical Alex Karp, a blue state supremacist. He's our new Trotsky. America will now be spying on its own citizens, and the new Trotsky is Alex Karp. This cannot possibly go well. So as AIPAC controls Congress, the ADL controls our education system and social media regulation, now we also have to consider Palantir as part of that same group of control. And we're going to be hearing a lot about them in the future.
I remember asking Benjamin Netanyahu, over 20 years ago, when terrorists were occupying the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem, which is the city in which Jesus was born. So it's, arguably the most important church in Christendom. And the IDF fired into the church, killed, I think, a bell ringer. I think may have killed a monk. Anyway, killed Christians in a Christian church. I was totally for Israel. I've never been against Israel, actually, which is the hilarious part. But I remember saying to him, you're using American weapons to fire into the Church of the Nativity? This was on CNN at the time. And boy, it was like, were you an anti-Semite? No. I don't want to fire into the Church of the Nativity. How is that okay? Right. And why does everyone think it's okay? It's not okay.
It's not okay.
Look, a foreign government is always trying to send me mail, tricking me out of money. I get these all the time. And look what it says. Urgent. Help feed the elderly. International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. They send this to all the Christians. They're always asking us for money. And look what it says. I will bless those who bless Israel. Why is Israel in brackets? Genesis 12:3. Genesis 12:3. What does it really say? I will bless those who bless you. I will bless those who bless you. I will bless those who bless you. All the different translations. That is a lie. And crazy enough, on the inside, they quote it again, but quote it correctly. I will bless those who bless you. They're misquoting the Bible just to get money. Look, we give Israel $3.8 billion every year for free. Isn't that enough for Israel? Wait a second. That's the Al-Aqsa Mosque. That doesn't belong to them either. Quit stealing stuff.
Guys, if your assessments here are correct, these are very covert weapons, aren't they?
That's correct. There's no entry or exit wound. How they're designed is to make the target feel like they're crazy, like they're imagining things.
And you guys also said that these attacks are happening right here in this city. Is that correct?
There have been some that have gone public with respect to Washington, D.C.
I think it was Mr. Grozev said you spoke to a Russian agent who said that they believe that Americans are using these same weapons on them. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Might that have something to do with part of the CIA's motive to cover up the existence of this tech and these weapons?